Bow, 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 from my head down to my toe. I love my little bow. Bow, 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 everywhere I go. You know I love my bow.
Hi, welcome to Joyful DIYs. I'm Joyful Day. Each week, I upload a new DIY based on your votes in the comments section, so keep them coming. That's why I love to chat with you in the comments section and also on my Instagram account, Joyful Day DIYs. That's linked down in the description box below. And if you want to collaborate with me, go ahead and message me on my Instagram account. Today is part 2, and we'll be working on this very easy unicorn dress. This is made from a twin sheet, so if you have a twin sheet of something cute, you can make a dress too. So the first thing that I would like to do is fold the sheet in half long ways so you have the two shorter sides coming together. No, you don't. You have the top side where the top piece of the sheet is folded in half. So you can usually find the top part of your sheet by looking for this little seam where the material is folded over each other, folded over itself anyway, and sewed down. I love using this section because it creates a perfect little top loop for the elastic on the very top of your the top. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this section by folding this whole thing in half, and I will cut down about 18 inches right here, and this will be the beginning of my bodice right here. So what I start off doing is going on the opposite end and making my square for my circle skirt. So what I do is I grab the end, of the sheet, and like I said, it's folded hot dog wise, and then I make it into a square by folding it over. So I have these two sides touching each other, and now I'm going to have them folded over on top of each other again. So now I have 4 edges on this side. Now what this does is it gives me the square that I need for my circle skirt. And you don't want to cut on the edge here, you want to cut on the fold. So grab where the folds turn into another fold, so you got 2 sides of a fold here. And then what you do is, now that you have it on the folds, you cut out your 7-inch quarter circle here, and then you go down 17 inches and you cut out your quarter circle on the 17-inch line. Also, this rainbow unicorn sheet was only $3.99 at Value Village. Can you believe it? After you get the sheet folded out how you want it, this is the center of the circle skirt where the foldovers are. And so I snipped just a little bit there and a little bit here to let me know where I'm going, but I measured this out, and I'm going to cut the very center section first in a quarter circle. And then I'm going to go down 17 inches. Maybe 18, just so that I have an extra inch for seam allowance. And then I just put the 18 line right to the very center, go all the way out here with my measuring tape, and I try really hard not to cut it, and just cut this curved quarter circle shape. And then wherever you're cutting it to, so you don't feel comfortable cutting it all the way across, just grab your measuring tape, re-measure out, and that way you can give yourself these pivot points to make sure that you're on the right slope. This way I didn't have to mark my fabric with anything and like accidentally maybe leave a mark on something. So now that I have the skirt cut out, I'm going to cut out the top, and like I said, this is a really simple, easy skirt and top to make. I'm going to make this into a dress to make it super fast, and you'll be surprised at how fast this goes. Now we go back to the top of the fabric where that little folded over piece is on your fabric if you're using a twin sheet. If not, then just fold down one edge and give yourself about an inch to put an elastic sleeve at the top and also at the bottom. Cut out from here to about down here. And I'm guessing that that's about 17 inches. We'll see. Wow. Okay, so it was 18 inches, so my guesstimation was about right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting off 18 inches across the whole bottom of this top of the sheet. And so I'm going to fold it into 4, just because then it'll be a lot less of a length of fabric that I need to cut down. Put this all on my table here and see how I can just grab the line that I want and cut straight across. So I'm going to go with 18. So of course this is a lot longer of a top than I'm going to need, but I'll just trim that extra side edge off. And this is plenty of fabric to do the whole accessories that I want to do, plus the sleeves. So I'm going to cut the sleeves out first because it's more important to get the sleeves done than to worry about accessories, because you can use scraps for accessories. Basically this whole top section that you just cut off for the bottom of the bodice, we're gonna take this and do the same thing, except we're not 17 inches. Think about how big you would like your sleeve to be, and I would like a sleeve that goes from here to about here, and it's a poof sleeve for both of my sleeves. So I am going to look at about how long I would like that. gonna go with a 12-inch sleeve, and the reason why I'm gonna do that is because then I can put elastic on both sides of that sleeve and create a ruffle. And I'll show you what I mean. So to start off, I'm gonna need to cut at the 12-inch mark. And I love how simple and easy these sleeves are going to be, because you don't have to have a pattern to make yourself a dress. And that's basically what I'm trying to show everyone, is that a really simple dress does not even, you don't even really need a pattern. You just measure yourself as you go, and you can end up with a really pretty dress that's going to be super fun to wear. And then all of this is going to be used in the DIY that I'm going to do next for all of the accessories. So I really can't wait to show you this next. So now that this is a long sleeve, much bigger than, of course, an arm would be, I'm going to cut it in half to make two sleeves. And then just make sure that your unicorns, or whatever your print is just facing the right direction for which side you want that to be on, which is why I folded it in half. That way one half is this direction, the other half is this direction. So I'll get this one on this sleeve, this one on this sleeve, and we'll have unicorns that are facing the right direction. Now that we have all of these pieces cut out, we can go ahead and start on the sleeve, just because it's going to be 2 straight stitches going down each side to create an elastic sleeve. To create an elastic sleeve for the sleeves, what you'll do is fold over about 1.5 inches on both sides to the underside of the material. Then what you'll do is sew along this edge in a zigzag stitch, or a straight stitch. You can straight stitch that. Might even want to roll hem it if you can. I don't think I have enough material. I'm just gonna straight stitch it right here, and then leave myself a tiny space in between the 2 stitches to create an elastic sleeve right here. And then I'm gonna straight stitch around along this about 1/4 of an inch right here from the edge, along the whole edge here. And this is the part that's going to end up ruffling up once you put the elastic sleeve in the center. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I just sewed that section, and what I did was I straight stitch right here first, and then I straight stitch right here, and this is giving me this elastic sleeve. And once this part bunches up, this is going to create this cute little ruffle at both sides of the sleeve. So I'm going to just do the same thing right here that I did to that side, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the other sleeve. So now I've completed both of the sleeves. So what I did was just sew basically a double line and leave a spot in between for the elastic sleeve, for the elastic band to go through both sides. Now that I've done that part, I'm going to go ahead and start on the skirt. To make the skirt, all I'm really going to do to start off is roll hem the very bottom edge, which is not the small circle, but the very large edge. And so I'm going to fold it down once, about 1/8 of an inch, and then fold it down again. and then I'm going to sew along this very bottom edge here and try to keep it as close as I can to this bottom edge of the fabric so that it'll attach right there. And this just prevents puckering, and it helps to keep a nice clean edge for the end seam of your skirt. So now I'm done with the skirt, and if you do have some ruffle, this would be the perfect time to add that on right there at the edge if you want. I am not doing that right now. I am going to attach this to the top as soon as I make the top. So of course I need to make the top. So to start the top, I am starting off by finding out exactly how much I need to cut off here. Basically, you're just wanting maybe a couple of extra inches so that you can pull the top on and off as needed, and with the elastic it will look really nice and mostly fitted, you know. So this will be about right. About here works. So now I'm just going to cut off this section, and you just measure yourself and then cut off that section. Make sure to give yourself a couple of inches so you can pull it on and off over your head, right there. And then right here where I cut, I'm going to sew it to each other. However, before I start sewing it together, I'm going to take this bottom edge and roll hem it. Not roll hem it, create an elastic sleeve. So I'm going to take this bottom edge and create an elastic sleeve by folding it down about an inch, maybe half an inch, and straight stitch sewing right there towards the edge of the bottom of that line here. And then I'll show you what I do after I'm going to put this, I'm going to sew this, and then I'm going to put the elastic sleeve in both sides, and I'm also going to sew it together. So I'll show you what it looks like after I get the elastic sleeve put in the bottom. Now that I have the elastic sleeve sewn into the bottom, I folded it over, and I'm not going to sew up the entire part of the elastic sleeves yet, but I'm definitely going to be sewing from here about an inch down to here about an inch down, so that I can put the elastic sleeve in the top and the bottom, and just straight stitch along right here so that this part can be sewn together to the other side of the bodice. Now I'm laying the dress out how I want to sew it. So the top is inside out with the elastic sleeve already done on it, and the top of the top is up here. And what I'm doing is I'm finding where I want the very center of the front of the skirt to be, and the back. So I want the front to be having the unicorns facing the right direction, so I have that here and that here. So now what you do is you line up the prints and you make sure that the nice sides are facing each other, and try not to sew into the elastic sleeve because we haven't added the elastic into it yet. But sew, I'm going to use a zigzag stitch and try and sew right to that sewn section to the edge of your skirt. And this is going to make an instant dress, basically. So what I did next is cut out a strip for the middle waistband and one for the above your bust section. And then you're going to need 4 more strips for both sides of each of the sleeves. What I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and safety pin the elastic here to one side and then weave it through, and do that to the top and the bottom of this section to make that in the center of the skirt. I left those 2 little holes there for that. And then I'm going to do that to both of the sleeves as well. So I'll show you what I mean. So I just safety pin both sides of my elastic, put one side of the safety pin through the material near the hole that you're shimmying the elastic through, and then put the elastic through one end, shimmy it through all the way around, and poke it out the other side. And then just like we did with the last bit of elastic on the last week's video, we're going to zigzag stitch right there at where both of those elastics meet each other, and make sure that it's really tight. That way it doesn't just like come off the first time that you put on your dress. Before you zigzag stitch and sew the 2 pieces of elastic together, you might want to put the other elastic in and try it on and make sure that that is a comfortable fit for you, and then sew that part down. Now I'm adding elastic to the sleeves by safety pinning each section and then weaving a piece of elastic through with a safety pin attached to the other side. And then I'm just gonna pinch that through until it gets to the other side, and then do the same thing with this section. Put the safety pin through, pinch it through, and just keep going. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to the whole other sleeve once I've got the elastic on this sleeve completely done. And I'll show you what I do next. After putting the elastic through the sleeves, you'll want to attach it by using a safety pin. So I'm starting in the back, that way I can attach close to the very middle and keep my sleeves up. So just like 1 inch away from the middle will help your sleeves stay up a little bit more. So I'm just using a safety pin, pinning it where I want, making sure that the sleeve feels comfortable. And doing the same thing to the other side. That way, both of my sleeves they're just attached right now by a safety pin in the front and in the back. And I'm doing this just because I want to make sure that it's comfortable and it's going to stay up before I start sewing in these sleeves. So when I sew right here, what I am going to do is I will start at this very edge, sew right along this elastic, right below the elastic strip here, and attach this side to that side on the inside. So I'll do that, and then I'll do that to the back of this one before I start safety pinning and adjusting in the front, because in the front I just safety pinned it wherever, and so that I could get a good idea about how I was going to need to do with the back first. Now I can flip it over and sew it, and I'll sew the back part, and then I'll worry about the front sections. So now what I'm doing is putting the back of the dress on the sewing machine, lining up where I had safety pinned that edge, putting the presser foot down there, grabbing the elastic that's up through the top and pulling it as far up towards this top edge as I can to keep it out of the way of me stitching. And then just sew about 1 inch of the sleeve, and don't forget to backstitch into the dress. And as soon as I get done with the back sleeve, I'm just going to try it on, put the pins where I want it again, and sew up the front in the same fashion. And then just clip off all these little strips and take the safety pins out of the back. And see, now that's attached. So I'm going to do the same thing to the front. Okay, so here's the dress. And I am done with the dress, and next I'm going to make the bow set. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week. Then I'll show you how to do the bow set. In a world filled with expenses, my DIYs are always free, so come back next week.
Bow, 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 from my head down to my toe. I love my little bow. Bow, 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 bow. Everywhere I go, you know I love my bow.